Hi, my name is Laura Lee. I'm a sophomore at Moravian Academy, and my convenience project this year focused on quality control practices in the pet food industry. As an owner of two cats, I have often fell victim to the common habit of just throwing in whatever generic pet food there is in the store into my cat's food dishes. However, this changed in the past year, when one of my cats was diagnosed with diabetes, leading my family and I to suddenly have to buy special prescription food in order to help regulate his blood sugar levels. When combining this event in my life with my interest for food science, I began to wonder what constituted my cat's food as safe and how it earned that certification. There are approximately 150 million domesticated dogs and cats in the United States, and all the food they eat must pass certain checkpoints before it can be distributed to consumers. So, I decided to take a closer look into the quality control practices in the pet food industry, examining multiple facets, identifying problems with the current system, and providing potential solutions. First, I researched current regulations and legislations that are in place, as well as the evolution of them over time. In reality, food regulations truly picked up in 1938 with the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, or FD&C Act. However, this legislation was very general, only stating that human and animal food must be safe to eat, not contain any harmful substances, and be truthfully labeled. While this was a huge step for food quality and safety at the time, as years progressed, the FD&C Act became less and less applicable. Combined with food safety events such as the melamine pet food recall of 2007, where hundreds of pets fell ill to melamine-contaminated food, it became clear that a change was needed. Enter the Food Safety and Modernization Act, established in 2011, which had a subsection titled the Preventative Controls for Animal Food Rule, PCAF for short. This legislation was revolutionary in that not only did it have regulations that specifically targeted animal food, but it shifted the foundation of quality control practices from those that would respond to hazards to those that would identify potential hazards and prevent them from happening in the first place, mandating manufacturers to supply and execute food safety plans including hazard identification and preventative controls. Next, I examined the general pet food manufacturing processes and how companies implement food safety practices. When you first look at the process, it's quite simple, but as you look closer, you realize just how many checkpoints pet food must go through before it can be distributed. Nearly all animal food facilities are required to follow current good manufacturing practices, which divide themselves into 7 subgroups, effectively covering all that a company must do. These practices range from obvious, with personnel in the facility wearing hairnets and proper attire, to perhaps obscure, with the suggestion of planting non-pest attracting foliage around the facility. However, all regulations center around the same main point: preventing contamination. While learning about pet food manufacturing, I was able to get in contact with a professional in the industry. Phil Simonowski is a systems engineer who has worked closely with many pet food manufacturing plants. When talking with Mr. Simonowski, I learned how important quality control is for these companies, as it is not only integral to their reputations, but essential for keeping their consumers safe. I also learned more about the machinery behind quality control on the production line, and the small margin for error. Mr. Simonowski provided me with the anecdote of when there was a large production line of pet food passing through a metal detector, when the smallest shard of metal was discovered, and the batch containing metal was immediately transferred to a separate line, preserving the efficiency of the production line yet also ensuring quality. But of course, good quality pet food cannot exist without good quality ingredients. In fact, the FDA has a term generally recognized as safe, or GRAS, for ingredients. If a company uses non-GRAS ingredients, they cannot market their products as FDA approved. Additionally, the road to earning the title GRAS is long and tedious, with 2 approaches. The first is scientific, where trusted scientists testify for the ingredient's safety in published scientific literature. The second is simply through experience, as the ingredient's safety is tested over time. Suppliers are also essential to a pet food company's success, as they provide the ingredients which serve as a foundation for products. When choosing suppliers, companies are often drawn to SQF certified suppliers, as they know that they will be able to keep up with consumer demand and provide the highest quality ingredients. After ingredients are approved, the product's recipe must also be analyzed to ensure it meets nutritional standards, such as levels of protein, fat, and water. 2 analytical techniques have become more and more prominent over the years. The first is nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, used to screen for harmful substances. Here, the nuclei of the sample are flipped using a magnet, creating a radio frequency wave that can be transmitted to a graph. The second is chromatography, which utilizes a stationary phase, mobile phase, and the different polarities of the substances that make up a sample to separate the sample into its components. This, when thinking in the context of pet food, aligns with the concept of quantifying the amounts of amino acids, fatty acids, and carbohydrates, all of which are vital to understanding the nutritional quality of the product. Now, there is a problem that may present itself as a challenge to the pet food industry: contract packing, or co-packing. This term comes into play when a company utilizes a third party, usually for the sake of lower costs, to manufacture its products. However, in the pet food industry, these third parties are not held up to the same quality standards as companies would be if they directly manufactured their products, even having the ability to switch out ingredients without notifying the company. Pet food companies that utilize co-packing purposefully remove control over their manufacturing lines, which directly affects their products and therefore their consumers. Pets with food sensitivities and allergies may react poorly to cross-contaminated food or suddenly changed ingredients, leading companies to lose both a customer base and their remaining buyers' trust. Finally, I looked at some future directions for the pet food industry. The first is, of course, enhancing regulatory oversight. By reinforcing the regulations we already have in place, we can close the loopholes that companies slip through and help mitigate the problem of co-packing. Additionally, strengthening supply chain transparency will only save time and costs when doing product recalls. While batch numbers do exist, we should incorporate emerging technologies such as blockchain, prized for its traceability, to lead companies into the future of safe food quality control. Finally, what I would argue is most important is educating consumers. Brands cannot succeed without consumers, and buyers have the right to know what is going on behind the scenes of the products they are purchasing. Moreover, as people gain a better understanding of the pet food industry, they will be able to pinpoint problems and notify companies. After all, companies will only make changes and improvements if enough of their customer base pushes them to do so. Thank you for listening.